A lot of people have very odd conceptions of Japan. They're just viewed as a very freaky culture. Like they have a lot of weird porn, a lot of sexualized content, and things like that. So a lot of people think very oddly of them. There's recently a thread going on Reddit, though, where people were asking Japanese Redditors what they thought about culture outside their own country, and anything that they saw particularly odd, and just give them a chance to share their perspective. And I thought that was very interesting, because you never hear the other side of the coin. You hear what the world thinks about Japan, but you never hear what Japan thinks about the world, you know? There were a few things they said that I actually agreed with a lot. One was their perspective on relationships and sexuality. First off, there was one post where a guy said he asked a Japanese foreign exchange student out on a date, and she made it a huge deal. Apparently, in Japan, it's a much bigger deal to ask somebody out on a date. Like, it's a much bigger step in terms of your connection with them. Here in America, you see a lot of the little boys and girls in high school doing the YOLO, getting drunk and having sex with each other and such. People can do whatever they want, but in my mind, I've always used relationships as something that you should use to get closer to somebody and find a deeper connection with. Not necessarily to marry, but, you know, just make it something worth it, not just some one-night stand or something. That's just my perspective, and I feel like Japan's views line up more with mine in that area. Another way is how they view sexuality in and of itself. Because you know how the relationships move a lot slower, obviously sexuality does as well. And apparently a lot of them aren't as explicit about sexuality as we might think. A lot of them don't like the freaky porn. That's just weird stuff that we see that gives us an odd perception. Apparently a lot of them don't even like the sexuality. There might be a regular movie that has a sex scene. And apparently people have said they've been with Japanese people who came from Japan. They're with them watching a movie that has a sex scene, and they start to act uncomfortable. Apparently that's just very odd for them. Another thing is how they view nudity. Now, when I say that I stand for personal liberty in society, and I believe people should be able to do whatever they want so long as they aren't hurting anybody, something that a lot of people come at with me, and I'm surprised how many people always give this exact response, but they would say, do you support the right for people to use nudity? Do you support the right to not wear clothes and just show their bare bottom to everybody? And to be honest, yeah, I do. I mean, if they aren't hurting anybody, what's the problem? You might be offended by it, but that's your problem. I don't care if you get offended by it. That's not the state's job to protect you from being offended. And that's kind of the way that Japan views it as well. They don't view it as being something sexual. Nudity is just your natural state of existence. It's not something used for sex. There's a context for everything, and they recognize that sex is not always the context for nudity. And that's something that I can respect a lot. It's a much more honest view of the human body and human life, to be honest. Another point they made is how important it is to relax and just take a breather in society. One big one was taking baths. A lot of people were saying how they're disappointed that a lot of apartments and houses just don't have baths. And a lot of the baths that we do have are very shallow. Apparently a lot of people like taking baths in Japan. It's like some of them do it every day as their way of relaxing. And I remember one person said, how do the Americans not blow up by not bathing? In my adult life, I've only actually bathed a few times, so I don't have much experience, but I do have to say it's very nice and relaxing, and I do appreciate it when I actually do it. They also tended to say that when you're in a public setting, like say a bus or a subway, it's much more respectful to be quiet and patient. It's not something you should be used to talk on your phone and create a loud ruckus. That's something that seems to be consistent here with a lot of things people said. Taking the moment to relax and not always working hard and such. I guess we have that image from schoolwork, like they have a lot of pressure in terms of working in school, getting good grades and such, but in just daily life, they aren't always moving. They have scheduled moments to take a breather, which I find very respectful in their society. There are some things that I disagreed with, though. Probably the best well-known one is how you should respect your elders. Like you should give respect to the people who are older than you because they've been around, they have more experience. Now let me say that if you're throwing rocks at old man Crazy's house and saying, ah, you suck, you're a loser, you know, that's not right, don't do that. I'm not condoning that. But what I'm saying is respect is something that's earned by what you've done in your life. There are plenty of people in my age bracket, or even younger than me, who I have respect for because I feel like they know things and they're better people than me because of the experiences that they've had. And there are people who are way older than me who I don't have this type of respect for because I don't feel like they've done anything like that. Just because you're 30 years older, it means you've had 30 more years to move on with your life. That doesn't mean you weren't standing still for 30 years and not making any progress. Being old isn't an entitlement to anything. You should be taking that time to progress as an individual. Do whatever you can. Get some experience. Make something of your life. And I'm not saying that the progress is indicative of what your life is. I'm just saying the fact that you tried. And a lot of people don't try. So that's something I disagree with. Another thing I disagree with is their view on obesity and the fat Americans and how being fat is a choice. Well, to a degree it is. Like, if I choose to go to McDonald's right now and get 20 Big Macs, that's my choice, right? But in a way, it's kind of like the culture's choice. I mean, that's a cultural thing. There aren't nearly as many McDonald's in Japan, because that's not their culture. Their culture eats much healthier foods, right? If your culture promotes something, you're more likely to take it in. It's not only because we have a culture that's much more run by just these foods. Like, if your parents ate these foods and they raised you on eating them, you're more likely to eat them. That's why I like fast food, because I was raised eating them. But also, while their culture, like I said, is built on taking moments to relax, our culture is largely built on convenience and keep moving. So we have a lot of frozen foods, or fast food, or takeout pizzas. Or if you're cooking something to make it taste good, you put butter on it instead of taking time to make it actually good. I definitely agree that doing that is not good, but that's not necessarily our choice as individuals. That's a societal problem, and we need to get together as a society and work together to stop our cultural perception in this way in order to change that. It's not like we're just lazier than the Japanese, it's that our culture is different in this way, and I'd argue worse. But I disagree that it's a choice, personally. Overall, though, it's a very interesting read. I think this is very important because a lot of people have an isolationist perception on reality. A lot of people think that their culture and their way of doing things, their way of thinking is the best, and thus everybody else is weird or even barbaric or just freaky. Like, that's the way a lot of people view the Japanese. They're just so alien to us. And a lot of them view the outside world that way. But the only way to make real progress is to look at other people, see what they do, see what they make of their lives, and see what sticks and try and emulate that. We have to work together to find solutions to our problems. If you stay alone, you're not going to get much of anything. But it's only by talking with each other and learning what progress we've made and what can be done about our lives can we start to move and make better choices in our lives. And seeing how many problems there are in the world, getting help certainly doesn't hurt. So it's a very interesting read. I'll link the post down below if you're curious to read it. I highly recommend it. Maybe you'll learn something.